This is Terraria, one of my favorite games. And to beat Terraria, there are two things that you absolutely need. The first thing is a mouse. The mouse lets you attack and interact. And the second thing is a keyboard. The keyboard lets you move and lets you click hotkeys. Unfortunately, my keyboard and my mouse, they got in a divorce and they refuse to be in the same room together. So it's not going to be possible to beat Terraria. Or is it? Welcome, dear viewer. Welcome also my therapist in about 4 weeks, because my name is August, and today I'm going to beat Terraria with 2 buttons. As we speak, I actually have no idea if this challenge is even possible. The infamous mouse-only percent has only been attempted once ever. Terrasteel's run, the only other one on the internet, was, to my knowledge, never even completed. So me and you being the first to beat Terraria with 2 buttons, that's priority number 1. The fact that this may be futile and completely impossible is priority number 2. And for the record, there's clearly a reason it hasn't been finished. In Terraria, you use the keyboard for everything. If we want to do this, the first step is figuring out how this is going to work, because we cannot go into this without a plan. I started how any other playthrough started, and created a character, naming him 2Key. And then I generated a world. And then I generated another world, and then I generated another world, and then I generated another world. Because in this challenge, the copper axe that you spawn with actually has a -1 tile range debuff. And see, this makes it really, really hard to actually get any wood when you spawn in. It's almost like you're supposed to be able to move or something. But it took me until 4Key the second to get a workable world. And speaking of work table, the crafting table, or fucking work table, I don't know. Making a workbench is the first step in any Terraria world, and breaking that barrier was ironically really difficult. And not even because I can't get close to a tree, but because I can't leave the world. There are only 2 buttons on this mouse, and as far as I'm concerned, neither of them are Alt or F4, and I can't rebind anything, which means no settings, and no power button either, because that's a button, so I can't leave the world.
Oh my god, bro.
Now you may be asking yourself, how did he do this? There's no button on the mouse that says craft crafting table. Well, let me introduce you to the saving grace of this run, the guide. Shelved neatly between his worthless advice and the fuck off button, the guide actually has a crafting button, and what this does is tells you what you can craft with the materials in your inventory. And what it also does is opens your inventory. This gives me access to not a lot. I don't know, doors, maybe? My next step was digging straight down, and since I can't move left and right, I did the next best thing, a hellhole. So now the strategy that I've meticulously crafted, get slapped left or right by a slime, and then mine down there. Since now we have a sustainable source of stone, we can move on to our next step, a furnace. But this is actually a lot harder than it seems, because if you're not careful, there's a very real possibility that you can just get stuck in a corner and then not be able to move anymore. This happened to me more than once. And then my 4th and final gripe with this early part of the challenge is smart cursor. See, in a normal run, you can just click Control and then make mining infinitely less tedious, because your cursor will automatically select the next block when you're mining. I can't click Control. So, in a sad reference to pre-1.2, I spent a lot of time mining and a lot more time dying, because you can't see shit. So this part was a slog. I spent way more time than I'd like to admit dying and trying and dying and trying again, and I've only made very little progress. But nevertheless, I began the last step in my plan for the movement tech I've been waiting for. One of the few reasons that I kept this world was not just because of the spawn, but because directly below me there was an abandoned house. And not only that, but also an anvil. This is huge, because now I don't have to spend what I was trying to look for to craft one. That's right, contrary to popular belief, you actually can move left and right in this playthrough. It's just really obscure and really hard to pull off. So let me show you. The first step was iron, and this is one of the only times in the entire run that I got lucky.
Okay,
What
I
if
can
this
see why.
slime makes it over?
I can see why I need so many people.
This slime has iron ore in it. There's no way. And if there is some Terraria god, he took pity on me because in from the right, I got a slime with some iron ore. This is perfect because my first movement tech is minecart tracks. Here's the thing, I literally cannot use the minecart, but that doesn't matter. See, when you place down a minecart track and then grapple onto it, for a split second, Terraria gives you a grappling hook, whether you have one in your inventory or not. Now, normally this would be useless, but because the minecart animation is actually bound to right click instead of E, that means I can use it. Which finally means that I can move left and right of my own accord. I can move. This is huge, and as long as you have a block between you and the minecart and don't actually mount it, you can go almost anywhere. If you do get in the minecart though, well, you'd be stuck. However, this does not actually mean you're permanently stuck, because if you right click the mount buff in the top left-hand corner of your screen, you can actually leave the minecart. But there are a few problems. The first one is that if you're in your inventory while you're in the minecart, you're actually stuck there because the only way you can actually get rid of that buff in the top left corner is if you can right click on it. And if you can't right click on it, then you're permanently stuck. Fortunately though, I now had a way to open my inventory because of the guide and no longer had to use the power plug as my way to get out of the world. Which means this all works out very nicely. If you like moving at 2 miles per hour. Because let me tell you now, even with the minecart, this did not get a lot easier. Of the things that I can get out of a gold chest, a percentage of them are actually completely useless. And I had already expended all of my luck for that day. Defeated, I took the chest and left to go mine some more. The next move was mostly base setup with my huge handicap. I ended up spending a lot of time making sure that my area was pretty traversable with all of these little minecart pylon tracks in the ground. This made sure that my base was safe for me and also made it pretty traversable. And my NPC houses also took the same design. Finishing up my painful pre-boss looting, I ended up with about 12 life crystals and 1 magic mirror. Truthfully, this does not seem like a lot, but the magic mirror is actually one of the most useful items I can have because it's essentially a get out of jail free card. Almost anywhere in the world, I can teleport back to spawn, and spawn, I can move left and right. And then as my final pre-boss project, I cleaned up my base and began work the John Galt line. Now that I had tracks, I needed to figure out how to use them to my advantage. Relatively. That advantage, per se, would be the John Galt line. And essentially, if you place a whole bunch of tracks in a really long line, there's no speed limit except for how fast you can click your mouse. Hence my Super Transcontinental Railroad, or the John Galt line. As it stood, this was about the most useful thing that I could have been doing, because I really needed a way to get around the world with ease. Pre-boss, I was only able to get it about to the snow biome, because, truth be told, it is not that interesting of a task. So for the rest of the way, I just decided to wing it. Anything to beat Terraria with 2 buttons. Eventually, I made it to the corruption to craft a suspicious looking eye, which is actually crazy, because I don't think I've ever done that before. I've always found them in chests. I promptly took it back to the base and began getting ready for the fight. Equipped with 1 iron chestplate, 1 iron greaves, a mining helmet, flaming arrows, and a dream, I began the Eye of Cthulhu fight. Oof! Oh, to the observer, this actually seems like a really boring fight. And to be honest, I imagine this is probably as interesting as watching me bang my head against a wall. Oh! The eye barely moves faster than Valve's release date on a good day, but neither do I, so in the worst way, the fight sort of balanced out. Regardless, our first boss was a flying success, no pun intended, and it gave me the confidence to continue this run, even with how unlucky I'd got. Like I said, we will be the first to beat this game with no keyboard. After obtaining Demonite, the first thing that I went out to do was go out and continue the highway. I figured that if I could beat the Eye, I was equipped enough to beat the Eater, especially now that the Demolitionist had moved into my house. It took a minute, but I eventually continued the Galt line far enough to the corruption, built an arena, and challenged the Eater of Worlds. Now, usually you would have something from Shadow Orb when taking on the Eater. I did not. Grenades for the win! Grenades for the win! Grenades for the win! Grenades for the win! The Eater, our second official boss, had finally been disposed of, and I got my grubby little hands on some real demonite. Which means seconds after beating the Eater, I teleported home and equipped my first legit armor set, along with a real pickaxe. And I would be celebrating, but we were about 12 hours into the run, so maybe I'm a little late. But regardless, I was posted up, and from here, it just gets better. That's right, I went to go Hellstone mining.
Fuck! Are you serious?
Okay, look. It's not even that I skipped Queen Bee, the jungle, Skeletron, the dungeon. This was just unrationably hard. See, the enemies in hell are engineered to make you dodge around them, because by now you'll have the means to. You'll have the Hermes boots, the Anklet of the Wind, which makes my situation possibly the worst one to be in. But the appeal of having Hellstone and quadrupling my defense, especially in a playthrough where I tend to get mollywopped into oblivion, was just too great. And so here we are. I trudged through it, and like every other aspect of this playthrough, it made me want to jump out of a window. In the midst of it, with about 45 Hellstone to my name, I was feeling pretty out of it. The mining process had just not outweighed the costs. I wasn't even fighting a boss, and this game still gave me more trouble than I'd ever dealt with before. And I'd only beaten 2 bosses. I felt like I was making no progress. And regardless of whether I had or not, I needed something to cheer me up, so I stumbled around my world. And looking back at my NPCs, at my super transcontinental railway, I had a thought. I really had made progress. I'd gotten all these NPCs, I'd killed 2 whole bosses, I built a railway across half the world. And then, I remembered. I'm going to beat Terraria with 2 buttons. I'd promised, I owe it to you, you clicked on the video. So I locked in. Over the playthrough, I'd saved up about 40 gold, and putting this all towards reforges, I was unstoppable. Even with the ridiculous mess of accessories that I'd accumulated by hobbling around the world. Oh, and I also found the stylist, because I spent so much goddamn time down there. Inspired by the mushroom on my right, I also decided to dye my hair green. So yeah, I was feeling a little better. Which brings us to the time in the playthrough that I should tell you about a little oversight of mine. See, since I really did go into this blind, I had been working out my solutions to every problem that I'd come across. I would go into a test world, throw some shit at a wall and see what stuck, and bring that back to my real world and use it. The only outlet for discovery was myself. And that explains why, near the end of pre-hard mode, I figured out that you actually don't have to save and leave the world every time you want to close your inventory. As a matter of fact, if you click the map button and then check the far corner, there is a transparent button that will actually close the map, and with it, your inventory. Which I understandably missed, but now that I have a full functional inventory and a full Hellstone loadout, I was ready for the Skeletron fight. Since I don't think he expected me to go all the way to hell and back before fighting him, the Skeletron fight was pretty easy. What we did need though was the mechanic, and thankfully, I found her fairly early. Once she's unbound, she sells us something that is exorbitantly important for the rest of this playthrough. Something so valuable that beating the wall of flesh would be nearly impossible without it. That's right, I'm talking about booster tracks, and I will tell you about that in just a minute. But first, I want a disclaimer. I actually did try out frozen slime blocks for those of you who are wondering. I know there are some of you out there, but they're just not to my taste. So you can see in the background I'm testing them out, but I just decided to go with booster tracks for what's coming up next, the Hellstone Bridge. But first, making the house pretty. Anyway, you already know this is going to be ludicrously hard, so let me and Orange Face over here walk you through it. Even with booster tracks, it's still pretty hard to build a long bridge, so I resorted back to using the tried and true method of blocks, tracks, and then coasting over them. This got me killed a whole lot, but on the bright side, it did eventually get finished. And with that done, I could take off the top layer of dirt, add some booster tracks, and we had a functioning hell bridge. This was version number 1, and finished with the track, I had some final preparations, and then I took my first shot. Obviously, this did not go well, and fittingly, it was also punctuated with me learning that I actually had no way to get to the end of my hell bridge down a hellhole, so I dug another hellhole and began the attempts. It was safe to say that I had really never done a challenge like this before, and it was really taking a toll on me. And what made it worse, every single time I had to wait for another 20 minutes to try to get a new voodoo demon. So I decided to test out new ways to do this. So I tested, and I learned, and I died, and I learned, and I tested, and I died some more, and I died a few more times. And then I was ready. Equipped with new knowledge, I made it past the first hurdle.
Oh my god. That is way too fast.
And then I got tongued, and if you don't know, that's usually the end. Usually.
Why am I alive? Go, 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 go. I'm so close. This can't be it. 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 No. We're done. We're done. We're done. Let me go. Let me go. 2, 3. Surely not. Surely not. Surely not. Bring me. Bring me with you. Bring me with you. That is 1. Yes! Yes! Oh my god! Oh my god!
And then, officially, I had finally beaten pre-hard mode with 2 buttons on my mouse. So first and foremost, thank you for watching. And second and foremost, obviously, you've noticed that this video is going to be a 2-parter. That's right, everyone. So again, thank you so much for watching, and subscribe so you know when to tune in for part 2, which will definitely be coming out soon. It's going to be just as, if not more, soul-crushing as this video. So thank you again for watching, and I will see you in the next video. And for those of you with attention spans, welcome to the end. If you've been wondering, this challenge has yet been on normal mode, which is by no means easy, but understandably not the hardest it can be. So what I'd like to propose is, if this video gets 100 likes, then I will do all of hard mode on master mode. And when that video comes out at the end of February, I don't know, I'm gonna have to figure out some way to do it. But I'd like to just say thank you so much. This has been my first video ever. It's been a journey making this, recording all of these parts. I'm doing this unscripted, but recording all of these parts, getting the total of like 20 hours of footage, just playing the game in general, writing the script, 22 pages. I just want to say thank you so much for sticking with me and watching this video. And if you haven't already, stay tuned for the next one. And most importantly, subscribe.